Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to documenting your production process for publishing. All right, part of component 2, developing media production skills for the creative media production BTEC. So, learning outcomes today is to understand how to document your production process for publishing, and so learning objectives must be able to understand the production process, should be able to use the top tips to be able to document the development of skills and techniques in the creation of their re-imaging idea, so your re-imaging idea, and could be able to comment using key terminology connected to the skills in documenting your work. This all links to component 2, Learning Aim A, and Learning Aim B, so that's about development of your media production skills and techniques and applying those media production skills and techniques. So, as a bit of a do now task, I want you to look at the marking criteria for this component 2B in relation to publishing, and think of the skills and the production process and the pre-production process that you will have to document. All right, so list the production processes and the techniques that you are going to have to develop in this process. Give yourself a couple of minutes, pause the video, carry out the task, and we'll go through it in a minute. Okay, welcome back. So, pre-production work, you should have listed mind maps, mood boards, flat plans, front cover designs, anything that you're designing in terms of the inside of the magazine, and research into the target audience and article topics. Now, you don't have to worry about that too much because we covered that in the previous video, so that should be done. You should be ready and raring to go with your production. So the production, you could list your photography skills, studio, setup and lighting skills, Photoshop skills, including image manipulation, typography and compositional skills. And remember, all right, be creative, be imaginative. That will hit you at the top distinction level automatically. Now, there are some top tips that I can recommend in terms of how to document your work. All right, the first is to save your work regularly in Photoshop under different versions by either putting like V1, V2, V3, or Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3 via Roman numerals, so that you end up with something that looks a little bit like this. This will showcase to the examiner that you are applying different elements and you're developing your product over time. Okay. The other thing is to take advantage of the screen clipping tool. Okay, so that you're making sure that in PowerPoint you've got your work logbook open, your workshop logbook open, and that means that you can clip when you're doing develop. Now I'll go into these as I've created little videos for them in just a moment, but using the screen clipping tool is really, really important. Right, and just as I'm showing you here, it shows that you can do stages of the production process. So to do this, all right, you always should allow yourself 10 minutes at the end of whatever you're doing. All right, so if it's the end of the lesson, 10 minutes before the end of the lesson, you should then save your work, create some screen grabs if you need to, and then write up a little bit about what you're doing and where you're going to need to go next. All right, and with regards to that and this presentation, everything that you would change, you would change what is in the red colored font. And the fourth top tip is to make sure that you're organized. All right, keep all your documents into one folder and set out your Photoshop document with the correct labels and group elements. Again, I've got a little video for you to follow for that as well. So in terms of how to save your work, okay, in Photoshop, watch the video, understand that this is how to save your work continuously in that 10 minutes at the end of a lesson or when you've completed an element. So one of the most important ways of documenting your production work is to save regularly. All right, now this isn't just a case of going to File and hitting Save. In Photoshop, you can literally create images, because that's what it's about, by going File and then you go down to Save As and you click Save As. Now oh, my computer's a little bit slow, but once you have selected Save As, what it does is it allows you to have lots of different options. Now obviously I'm have saved lots of different things that I've created, so different versions of my cover lines and barcodes, etc. Right, but it means that if you've got a folder that you can create the development or save the development to, what you want to do is go from this drop down menu and just select JPEG. Alright, so making sure that you've got it, and what you want to do is you want to save at a particular point. So if you've put version 1, alright, or version 2, alright, now what I'm going to do is just going to turn around and call this Team Trend front cover masthead only. Okay, you can turn around and have mark 1 there. However, right, depending on what you're doing, you should always turn around and create a different mark of it, and knowing what you're doing in terms of the masthead. Right, by saving it for different positions, when you click sorry, by saving it for different positions that you are in the production process, it's showing the examiner what you're developing and how you are applying the techniques that you are learning. So if you hit save on this, what you'll get is you'll get a load of options in terms of what you want the final quality to be. Alright, so if you just keep it as is and then click OK, what it will do is it will save an image into your folder that you can then go and insert into your PowerPoint later on. Right, so that's a really important top tip. Alright, save your work regularly as an image. Alright, just also make sure that you're saving it as a PSD file as well, but save your work regularly so that you've constantly got an element of development that is an evidence for the development as you go through your production process. The other thing is organization. Alright, organizing your work. So creating groups in Photoshop, like endlessly I see students trying to click through the multiple layers that are in Photoshop. Alright, now by creating groups, it allows you to focus on single tasks. Again, I'm just going to show you this in Photoshop. If I show you my front cover and we look at the different areas, what you'll see is I've got a group for my barcode, I've got a group for my hair goals cover line, sound off cover line, rebel style, hot fashion, main cover lines, my masthead, and then I've got my main central image behind that. Now what this allows you to do is that if you are going to go, okay, I need to work on this sound off, what you can do is just click on the file, get it to drop down, and then you've got all of those different elements already. So it means that you're not hunting around and clicking all over the place about what you're trying to find. Okay, so the auto select is good because it will click it, but if you've tried to put elements together like I have done in the creation of the masthead, it's really important to have these groups. Right, so now to create a group, and if I go to something I was doing earlier, to create a group, all you need to do is you need to select the layers by holding down shift, and then you go to this little folder at the bottom of the screen and you go create new group. Right, now by double clicking on it, then I can just call this lips, or actually I'm going to call them pride lips. Alright, it means that if I was to do anything else that I need to do with this image, it means that if I wanted to go back to those lips at a particular point, then I can just create those. So it means that you've got an organization to your work that allows a speed for you to be able to design. And if you're setting yourself a time, say an hour, then as I've said in my top tips, give yourself 10 minutes towards the end to do a screen clipping tool or to grab what you are doing throughout that hour, but make sure you're uploading it to your workbook. Right, so that's grouping. All right, so make sure that you are grouping your work when it comes to your magazine or whatever you're designing. Right, so the different elements. And the last one that I am showing you is the screen clipping. Alright, so screen clipping is your friend. Again, I've created another little video just to help you out with regards to how to clip your screen. Now, the screen clipping tool within PowerPoint is fantastic, okay? It allows you to document your work and showcase what skills you are doing as you develop and as you go through the production process, okay? Giving not just the examiner evidence to support it visually, but also helps save time, etc. So, to create a screen grab, you need to make sure that you have got whatever you're working on behind. So if it was Photoshop, then you've got your Photoshop. If it was Explorer, then you've got your window open that you're going to screen clip from. Right, so then you go back to PowerPoint and you go to Insert, alright, Screenshot. Now the reason that you don't want to pick any of these available windows, alright, is that you have to go through a lot of cropping. So if you just click onto the screen clipping, it will become misty, and this will allow you to then click and drag and include the element that you want to include into your PowerPoint. Alright, this also works in Photoshop. For example, if you were going up to a particular point, say that I've just inserted the hot fashion element, then it also allows me to go into Insert, Screenshot, go to Screen Clipping, and then go over and take a direct screen clip of it, and it appears in Photoshop. Okay, now doing this throughout it, so you've just changed something, you're doing photo editing, you can literally just clip straight into your work and logbook, right? It really helps. If you're doing this, then you're really showcasing to the examiner that you are developing your skills, and that's what this component is all about. Right, so those are my 3 top tips for carrying out work. So now we're going to move on to the production process, all right, and we're going to go through the production process and how you are documenting or going to document your work. So the first thing you need to do is set up your Photoshop document. All right, now going and finding out what the dimensions are for your original magazine that you were researching into is a good place to start. So I was researching into Vogue, so I went to the Condé Nast website and I found what their page diameters were. Now this is really important because it means that you're going to follow exactly the same dimensions, so as if you were actually creating a similar project and reimagining it in the same way. The way that you set up this is you go to a new document in Photoshop, okay, and you fill in what the dimensions. You'll need to use the drop down box to make sure that you're doing it in millimeters, and you put those millimeters into that box. Now make sure you change your title as well. So I've changed mine to Teen Trend. What you want to do with that is that you will it will give you a new document, and then you want to use the ruler tool. If they're not present, you can press Ctrl R, all right, and you'll put ruler marks around the canvas so that you can see where the canvas is. Now the idea is that we want to put in trim and bleed lines. Okay, so what you want to do is then increase the canvas size. Okay, so you go to image and canvas size, and then you click the relative box and enter 6mm. This will create a 3mm bleed that goes all around your page, right? And if you select the color, I've selected mine to pink, then it will showcase this to you. And then what you want to do is repeat that for the same, so that you've got another 20mm, creating that trim, and separate that into a chosen color, which I've done mine for blue. All right, these ideas is it should look like this. Okay, now this comes into real importance when you're actually submitting a proof of something, so that it will create those little corner cutout bits that you commonly find in proofs, right? But the white represents the safe area. Okay, so this is your area that you can design into, right? Then you get a little bit which is a bit of a leeway, and then the blue, which was basically what will be trimmed down. So this is essentially your canvas of which to work onto. Then you'll need to start documenting the production process. Now, it doesn't matter what elements you start with. I've started with my masthead. Okay, so I went on to defont.com and I created a load of fonts, making sure that I customized them with the word trend, and I actually grabbed them using that screen clipping tool, put them into my PowerPoint, but with the font names. Now, the really important point about collecting the font names is that you'll deal with so many fonts when creating a magazine. It's good to have them to hand when you come to being able to install your image. So I decided on this this font. I think it appeals quite chic, and it would appeal to both males and females. I felt the others were either too masculine or too childish. So I found this tutorial online because I wanted to show off how to make a masthead, how to create a mask for different elements. And so I found something that I wanted to create with it. All right, so I wanted to amalgamate the pride flag into the trend logo. All right, so I managed to do this by using a mask tool. All right, I felt it was better. I really like the boldness, but there is a sort of progression at the moment about changing the pride flag to be more inclusive, and that's what the smaller pride flag looks. So that's what I did, is I created the masthead, but eventually putting in this new pride logo. I felt it was more forward thinking, which would represent my brand image. All right, and therefore by doing that, I've got my masthead. I've also increased the T size because I wanted to make sure that I put the log line above that as well, and then also incorporated teen. Now the difference with this is that the colors were a lot darker, all right, than they were in the original with using the original pride flag. So I took the original trend and I color corrected it. So I sucked it up with the dropper and color corrected each of those lines, making sure that they were vibrant. I included the slogan of the magazine, setting the teen trend, so it all works together in one masthead. So I've also used the screen clipping tool to document what I'm doing. So the eyedropper tool is used to suck up a color. The paint bucket tool is used to edit a color of an image, and then the switching button or pressing X on the keyboard will switch between colors, so it makes it a lot easier to navigate. And then I imported or exported or duplicated that layer to my canvas that I eventually, or that you set up at the beginning. And then I just wrote up a little bit of a description about that area. So I said them about what I was planning to do. So I said I wanted to create a new sort of pride flag to ensure that it communicated pride. I talked through what I essentially learned through doing the tutorial and how I've adapted it to what my magazine is. So then I would move on to your cover lines. All right, so this is entitled a typography experimentation. So I went back to defont.com, created several sort of different, or found several different fonts that could connote breaking. All right, and I appreciate that I spelt mold in the American way, but again, Vogue is an international magazine, so I thought about doing it a little bit, mixing it up a bit. So I found several different fonts. I felt that because it was about Tom Daley's coming out story, that breaking would be a really good idea. So sort of shattering the web or broken glass. And I've also found a generic font which is lemon milk. All right, now lemon milk is there for everything that comes under in terms of sub cover lines. So I started playing about with colour and composition, breaking the main feature article up into several different points, putting it into different colours, which I found from the pride flag, and then using my lemon milk to sort of add to it, eventually creating my main feature article. And again, I copied that across, all right, and I documented what I was doing the entire time. So then I looked at my cover lines, all right, so all of the different cover lines that I went through. So I found about 3 fonts for each one, which I felt represented the theme. And then what I did was I just put some simple connotations about what they could mean, all right. So then I was able to choose the best styles for my cover lines. Now when I started to construct it, right, I was able to use the screen clipping tool to be able to take different versions of different stages in terms of setting out and showcasing what the skills were, all right. So this is about development, composition and layout, and how to use the pen tool more specifically, right. So I found a pen tool about creating text boxes, and I've used the text box to make sure that I've aligned it with the main cover line so that the subline supports it, all right. So essentially, by the end of this, you should have headlines for all of your cover lines, and I've got some that I can use for the alignment left, so some that go to the left hand side and then some that go to the right hand side, right. It's important when you think about your cover lines and your central image that you are able to place them around it so you're not detracting from what your impact of your central image is. So then I set to creating the barcode, alright, so I found another YouTube tutorial about how to create a barcode, and then I documented that in different pictorial elements, showing that I progressed them. So I found the Twitter logo, I found the Condé Nast logo because that's who makes Vogue, and I've managed to incorporate it, and again at the end I transferred it to my main canvas and then saved a version of it. Then I thought it was about time to do my photo shoot. Now, bearing in mind that I'm doing this in lockdown, I haven't really got studio lighting. If you're doing it at school, then it's quite easy to set up these studio lights. But if you are doing it at home, or whether you're doing it here, if there is someone like your parents, etc., that can take photos of you doing the photographs, so some sort of postmodern photographs of photographs, then that'll help you to put it in to your logbook, and it showcases to the showcases to the examiner what you or send that you are the person that has created this. And so what I did was, from following that photo shoot, I put up a load of thumbnails of the images, just as if you would do in professional practice, and then I went through them and decided which ones I was going to create, and also what I did in terms of the costume. Now I know that I'm going to have to crop and resize the image, I'm going to have to remove the green screen background, I'm going to have to add light sources, and I'm going to have to airbrush the image, mainly because I didn't have those. So I got a variety of different poses, but I eventually decided on this one. All right, now the benefit of lighting is that you would have in a studio is that you will be able to showcase a more sort of professional feel than I've achieved with mine. All right, but I've just given you, this is where I've started from, and then what we'll end up with in terms of how these elements all work together. So to start this, I removed the green screen, alright, so I adjusted, after I've removed the green screen, I adjusted the composition using the composition alignment tool, adjustment tool, and I just tweaked it so that there was a more dynamic composition, alright. Then I went on to airbrushing the photo. I found a tutorial on airbrushing, and I used the spot healing tool to take out several moles, etc. And then I used the masking tool to create several masks, and then eventually used the brush tool to pull through one layer to the other and create that airbrushed effect. Right? I hope that kind of shows with the sort of before and after elements. You're probably looking at it going, there's no difference at all, but if you actually look closely, there is. There's removal of moles and freckles, etc. Then I wanted to add my pride lips onto the image manipulation. Now, because I knew how to insert an image within the text, I already had some of those skills, but this required me to mask up a different area, so masking a specific area, so I wanted to use the lips. So I found a tutorial on how to change the color of lips and then use the skills that I did before to amalgamate that into one image. All right, again showing documentation of how I've done that in the process, combining it with that pride flag. And then I wanted to create that glass crack. All right, I wanted my model to be as if he is breaking the mold, so cracking out of the magazine. So I found some images and I drew one as well actually of a broken piece of glass, and then I put them in using certain blending tools and the special paste tools to ensure that I could merge those into my central image. All right, now when it came to that, it meant that what I had placed already, when I mixed my front cover of my magazine, my main image with my front cover, it was all aligned to a left-hand side, and I didn't really felt that worked. So what I did was I increased the masthead size, and also I felt that when I put these 2 points together, that the main font at the bottom really was lost. So the main feature article was really lost when it came to putting it on the image. So I duplicated the layer, created a color overlay, and then just by tapping left and right, it sort of created a shadow towards the main feature, and therefore made it really stand out. And by doing this compositional layout, I followed the Z, so setting the team trend, leads along the line. You see the model goes down the title, and it's not the title, the main cover feature article, and then I know that I have shown good development of compositional style. So you want to put in the end your completed front cover, so that you're really showcasing to the examiner what you have created. So in terms of tasks, where we're going from this, all right, you'll need to make sure that you create and show evidence for the development of your masthead, your cover lines and sublines, your feature article and your main article headline, your barcode creation, and your central image. All right, now I've just put in brackets some of those key skills for you, but don't forget those top tips. All right, so 1, save your work regularly in Photoshop under different versions, version 1, version 2, or by using Roman numerals. Take advantage of that screen clipping tool to really document what you're developing into your logbook directly. Make sure you're always allowing 10 minutes at the end just to document that. All right, give yourself 10 minutes where you're just showcasing what you've done and what you've developed. Those 4 examples are in red that I have been going through in terms of this presentation. And then make sure you keep yourself organized. All right, make sure that you've got all of those key documents into one folder, and make sure that you've got the correct labels onto your groups. So I hope that you understand a little bit more about how to document the production process for component 2, and I look forward to showing you the last video for component 2, which will be about evaluation. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next lesson. Take care. Bye.